There's been commotion at the ANC's conference in KwaZulu-Natal. Our senior political reporter, Xoli Mgambi, is in Mpangeni. He's following the story for us. Xoli, so we've just had a media briefing. Tell us what's going to happen next.
Well, good afternoon to you, Shahan. Indeed, there has been a media briefing following a closed-door meeting with the leadership of the ANC in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, but also they were joined by the national leaders of the ANC. And, of course, after that meeting, the media then called in to essentially communicate the decisions that have been taken. And so, Shahan, first and foremost, the continuation of what has been termed a consultative conference, that is no longer happening. The conference has effectively ended after that closed-door meeting. But also importantly, the delegates who were sitting here today, they have given a mandate to the leadership, both at province and national level, to say that the conference, they want it to be convened as soon as possible. Now, the leadership here is talking about 6 weeks, but there appears also that there's going to be some discussion with the leadership at national level at the structure called the National Executive Committee. But Shahan, I am not alone. I am with the convener of ANC NEC deployees here in KwaZulu-Natal, and that is Nocawe Mafu, who speaks to me now. Ma'am, thank you very much for giving us your time. I want to kick off this interview by suggesting to you that there have been those who are saying that your leadership in overseeing the smooth running of this conference is completely not working. In fact, it's been a complete and utter failure, partly because you've been factional yourself. Okay. How do you respond to that?
Thank you very much, Xoli. My name is Nocawe Mafu. I'm the National Executive Committee member, convener of deployees in KwaZulu-Natal. I think, first of all, it's important to note that we are 8 members that are deployed in KwaZulu-Natal from the National Executive Committee, and I'm convening them. And in anything that we do, we take the mandate from the PTT. It would be the one that would draw up a program and they would send us to regions. But also the National Executive Committee would then, and the officials, decide on certain programs that must come in. It's going to be very difficult, therefore, to comment on an issue of factionalism of individuals. And I think it's because what then is important is that you would know, Xoli, as yourself, that the National Working Committee has been into this province because of challenges. The national officials have been to this province because of, after the killings, if you remember. And we have not had a complaint yet from the leadership and from the branches and from the structures of the African National Congress that we are factional, until such time that it comes to our ears and we are able then to deal with it in a structural level. We will be able to deal. It's for the first time from yourself that I'm hearing that we have been dealing with issues on a factional way. But we do also want to assure you that if that is the case, those that have got that discomfort have got all the right to go to the structures of the African National Congress, both nationally, and explain that members of the National Executive Committee that have been deployed here by the national leadership are not performing and working in a manner that they are happy with, and that will be dealt with.
How then do you respond, Ms. Mafu, to what the chairperson of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, framed last night as a suggestion? These were his words, that this gives an impression that this conference is a conference of a particular faction, and it is your faction, Sihle Zikalala, given that every time you address them, they seem to quieten down and listen to you, but when it's others, they're not listening. Isn't that a reflection on your leadership as a national leader to say you bring into this conference all the other elements, or if you like, all the other factions? Why was it that it seemingly was dominated by one faction? These were the observations of your national chairperson, not my observations.
Fair enough. Remember, I was here when National Chair says those words, but I think, Xoli, you're missing one thing. He said, it appears, you are leaving the word appear, it appears as if the people here keep quiet when Sihle speaks, and it therefore appears as if it's people from your faction. That's the perception. But he didn't say it is your faction. I think it's important to differentiate too, because that was a perception, and he said it appears. And I think what he was trying to say, he was saying why it therefore when Sihle speaks, people are keep quiet. Why when somebody else speaks, they are making the noise. And that is something that he had observed. Remember, an observation that he then had to say it aloud. And it's an issue that was discussed after the conference had adjourned and the PTT had a meeting. And he had clarified the issue. He said, I did not say, Sihle, that is your faction, because that question was raised. He said, I said that was the perception.
The point is, Ms. Mafu, I'm sorry to come in.
I'm coming there. Now, you are saying to us, what then do we do as leadership? Of course, we agree that there are challenges in KwaZulu-Natal. We also agree that that's one of the reasons why the conference didn't take place. If there were no challenges, conference would have gone on. And that's why, therefore, we are saying there is an intense interaction that is going to happen between the national leadership and the report, and that will be able to deal with issues that are outstanding to make sure that we have a credible and a fair conference.
All right, Ms. Mafu, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to have to let you go because I see the coordinator of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Sihle Zikalala, has also come to join us here. Shahan, I hope you can give me more time, please, I request.
You have all the time you need.
Go, ma'am. Thank you. Let me bring in Mr. Zikalala. Sir, thank you very much for joining us. We're discussing here the observation that was made by the national chairperson of the ANC that seemingly people who were gathered here last night were Sihle Zikalala's faction. These were his words, not my words. How do you respond to that observation? And also keep in mind that he ended up not being able to address this conference at all. In fact, he's back in Pretoria as we speak.
He would have been in Pretoria even if he addressed yesterday. But two, what you are saying is not what he said. The national chairperson said, when we try to speak, we are disrupted by people who are singing. When you come, Sihle, you address, you stop them, they listen. Creating an impression that they are your faction, they are not your faction. That's what he said. Now, cherry picking in your question, you are leaving aside the point that National Chair raised, that they are not your faction, but they are creating that impression.
Fair enough, coordinator. But answer me this question, therefore. How does it come about that a senior leader of the party who was meant to deliver a keynote address ended up leaving the conference even after we, the media, were kicked out? He could not address it, and he had to go back home.
No, I'm not sure whether you are aware that what we did when you were not kicked out, but you were excused as we entered into a closed session. When we entered the closed session, we discussed what was happening. We then agreed that we must structure the program, have a meeting with regions, convene early today, allow a discussion. So when we had a closed session, there was we didn't say the national chair must address at that time. Nobody said so. Now, it will be wrong to answer a wrong question because you are creating an impression that he was even stopped in a closed session.
So in the closed session, you're saying that he was able to address the gathered delegates? Let
me tell you what happened. After the media left, we engaged, agreed to adjourn, and come back today. Today we discussed, delegates apologized on what happened. They made it clear that they are frustrated by a number of national leaders mostly from KwaZulu-Natal, who are peddling divisions in regions. They come, peddling those divisions take a form of public statements they make, of meetings they convene, and of number of things. Those are issues that are straightforward, raised, they are specific with names. It's just that we can't speak on that without a forum where those comrades are engaged on those issues.
Let me cherry pick then and give a name to one of the leaders that you mentioned during the press conference. In fact, it was not you who mentioned it, but it was a journalist who asked it, that Begicele, NEC member, said, members, take the ANC to court until it does the right thing. And you then characterized those kinds of statements as the ones that are problematic. The question I want to therefore embed in that is, are you not rushing this conference, given that you have those kinds of statements from some senior leaders of the party? Are you not rushing it by saying that the delegates want it now, they want this conference now, or within 6 weeks?
Maybe there is something you don't understand. Begicele said that statement before Nasrec. Before Nasrec.
Fair enough.
Well, I don't know whether the statement is still relevant. That's what you can ask from him. But in Nasrec, we resolve on the establishment of the National Dispute Resolutions Committee as a means to ensure that disputes are resolved internally rather than going to courts. Now, I don't know whether Begicele would still be saying, take the ANC to court until the ANC do right thing. I'm not sure. You can ask him about that. But we have a National Dispute Resolution Committee that is dealing with all issues.
Are you not rushing this conference?
I don't know whether we are rushing a conference that have been prepared for almost 6 months. Preparations for a conference started on the 29th of January when the Provincial Interim Committee was established. I'm not sure that we are rushing. Two, the conferences of the ANC are guided by the constitution of the ANC. The composition, but also the existence of structures of the ANC it's guided by the constitution. You can't overstay your mandate in terms of the constitution. But two, you cannot have a permanent interim committee.
Is it the interim leadership's view that the longer this conference takes place, or the longer it takes for this conference to sit, the more killings we are going to see in KwaZulu-Natal? Do you share that view as the interim leadership in the province?
We do believe that we must stabilize the organization, and it will help us to have a leadership that is legitimate, elected. It will help us also to intervene in such issues, because the ANC needs to conduct even its investigation on the issue of killings. We can't leave it to police alone. The ANC must decisively intervene and deal with these issues. So dealing with these issues also need a leadership. It needs the leadership that will go there, be able to work and deal with issues as they are.
Therefore making this conference ever more urgent. Is that your...
Well, that is the view that I think the collective shares.
I want to take you to a matter that I asked earlier in the press conference, and that is that of attending the Zuma court rallies, if you would allow me to call them that. You had leaders there, or people coming from certain organizations, who really made disparaging remarks against the national leaders of the ANC, and actually even mentioned by name, in particular, President Cyril Ramaphosa. Again, I ask you the question, is it wise, do you deem it appropriate, to be part of that, of those people, standing there and listening to them lampooning your own leaders?
Firstly, I want to answer this question in a more comprehensive manner. As a person, I've met on one-on-one with President Cyril Ramaphosa on many occasions. This year alone, maybe I've met him more than 3 times or 4 times. So to say going there, you counterpose it with the support for President Ramaphosa will be wrong. It will not be correct. President in the ANC is one. We went to Nasrec. We elected one president, Cyril Ramaphosa, irrespective of what was our view before. So President Ramaphosa is the president of the ANC. Jacob Zuma, as a comrade, is charged. Then individuals who have worked with him goes there and support him. Now, I believe that also going there help us to clarify those issues, those statements that are ill-informed, and correct them on the spot. Whenever I've been there, I've been able to raise issues as they are, and I've been always cautioning that let us not use those platforms to undermine the ANC. Let us not use those platforms to discredit the leadership of the ANC. Clearly, it will be idiotic to link the president with the churches, because some of the issues happened even far before President Cyril Ramaphosa was elected.
Would you then characterize, I like the phrasing of the word that you just used right now, that it would be idiotic. Do you think it was idiotic of Suprama Umapilo, the chairperson of the ANC in the Northwest, to refer to former President Zuma as president, because the SACP in the Northwest is now demanding an apology as a result of that?
Well, look, in an environment of confusion, anything, even things that are not serious, they become issues. Let me help in this regard. Ambassadors, once you are an ambassador, you can call an ambassador even after you have returned from being an ambassador. Even after you retired, you will be called ambassador. Judges are called what? Judges even after they retire. Now, I think Comrade Supra was coming from that angle, as we always do, that the title president remains with you, just that we need to ensure not to create a confusion, put former president and say former president. Now, we sometimes elevate issues because of challenges we have in areas we live in. I don't believe it's a strategic issue we can engage on.
It's being raised by an alliance partner of the ANC, which is the SACP,
yes,
and on top of that, they are now actually, in fact, today, it's an alliance political council that's taking place in the Northwest. They've boycotted that particular meeting until Suprama Umapilo apologizes. Would you encourage your fellow leader in the Northwest to apologize?
Look, the issue of boycotting on the basis of calling the former president president is unfortunate, because I'm sure that political council has a lot to discuss. Political council must debate about the state of governance in that province. It must debate about the life of the people of Northwest. Political council, it's a meeting composed of the senior leaders in the province, officials. So they've got the very strategic issues. But in essence, the boycott is not necessarily this issue. The boycott is about divisions that have characterized the province before. And therefore, in a state where you've got challenges, anything become an issue. And that's why the national leadership is working with our leaders in Northwest to resolve issues of Northwest.
Just finally, Mr. Zikalala, as I wrap this conversation with you, I want to ask you this question and frame it at a national level. The SACP says President Zuma is at the heart of the pushback on the fight against corruption and state capture. And it appears that the province of KwaZulu-Natal has become the launch pad of that particular fight back. Are you prepared to accept that?
I am of a view, and I believe that the SACP will raise that with the ANC. There will be a political council that will take place. And I believe that that political council will help to address those issues because the SACP must raise those issues internally. But I believe because those issues affect us as the province, we must request the ANC nationally to create a platform where we, in KwaZulu-Natal, the SACP in KwaZulu-Natal, engage with national leaders of the alliance. Have a meeting where the national leaders of the alliance will come. The National Political Council will come and meet with us as the alliance in KwaZulu-Natal. We work very well with the SACP here in the province. We're working well with KwaZulu in KwaZulu-Natal. We're working well with SANCO. Leave that, time and again there will be challenges. But as provincial leaders, we are reaching out, we are working on unifying and uniting ourselves. And therefore, I believe that it will be better for the national leaders to come and meet with us to engage on such issues.
Finally, do you believe that by standing shoulder to shoulder with the former president, who is going through a criminal case right now, you are inadvertently endorsing corruption and what he's alleged to have done, which is aid and abet state capture? Do you believe you're doing that as a province, particularly as the leadership of the ANC?
My view and my belief is that corruption is wrong. I come from a perspective that says corruption is counter-revolutionary. It undermines progress. It undermines the ANC as a governing party. So we should deal with corruption. But also, the constitution of this country says you are innocent until proven otherwise. Now, let us not be judgmental. Let us not have those who will be charged and be innocent, and those who are charged and guilty without even be found to be guilty. Now, let's not be judgmental. Let's allow fair processes to proceed. Allow the processes of court to take place and deal with the issue. On the state capture, you've got a commission that is coming. All people must go to the commission and speak. We must speak about the state capture in entirety. We must deal with issues as they are.
Mr. Zikalala, thank you very much for your time. Much
Thanks.
Obliged.
And I'm sure that I've spoken today with you and covered even the time we could not speak before. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Shahad, that was the coordinator of the ANC here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, is part of that interim leadership that continues to exist, given that you don't have a new leadership that has been elected here. The courts have once again intervened, saying that this conference cannot sit, and therefore Mr. Zikalala will continue in that role alongside Mr. Mike Mabuyakulu as the convener. That's how things stand here, Shahan, for the moment.
All right, thanks for that. Appreciate it. eNCA senior political reporter Sihle Zikalala.